though, to get into this piece of the other side of the coin with the online reaction, I felt like public discourse online was survivors and supporters against the D League of bench players from the Manosphere, right?
Well
Like
put.
the D League bench players of the Manosphere jumping online and like just tweeting. What was not surprising, but really hit me hard and was striking, was the number of survivors. I don't know where you like I on Threads I saw a lot of women and young women from like different generations sharing like, this is what I went through years ago, decades ago. This is what I'm going through. This is what it's like. This is what it's always been like. You know,
Hmm.
stories of young women dealing with sexual harassment, hurt, harm, sexual assault from hockey players. And I want to just mention also that it's not exclusively, you know, young girls, young women and women, gender expansive people, and dudes, young dudes,
Hmm.
right? Like there's, and we'll talk about it, you know, hazing rituals,
Yes.
harm that they've experienced. So the abuse is like, obviously we are focusing on young women and women, but it is true that the abuse is widespread.
Yeah.
But yeah, just you know, your thoughts on stuff that you were reading online from survivors, and I guess, you know, people obviously reaching out to you, people you know, and just kind of commenting and sharing. Just so much, so many people sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just been amazed by the community solidarity that I've seen, like survivors showing up for each other, community
Yeah,
members showing up for each other in ways that I think are so impactful and reminiscent of like when Me Too was at its height. Like I think these cases are so, so challenging, but it really is amazing to see the way that people come together. And I do also want to say that even if there's a survivor out there hearing this stuff who hasn't told their story, like they're equally as commendable and brave. Like I think speaking publicly
yeah,
about it is very brave, but I think surviving it in any way is brave. So just really appreciative of the folks that are doing this work in whatever way they feel capable. And yeah, I've been amazed by the stories. Unfortunately, we see so many patterns between stories. I grew up in Southern Ontario. I grew up in a very white dominated neighborhood where hockey was very like the sport at my high school, and there was a severe rape culture there. And I remember hearing these stories, experiencing, you know, misogynistic, sexually violent humor, hazing rituals, all those sorts of things were so normalized. And I remember reading a lot of online commentary during this trial where people were saying, like, very openly, if you grew up in Southern Ontario, you are not surprised by this case and you believe EM. Because there is a culture within hockey, and like naming and confronting that is very intimidating, but really necessary, because we need to talk about complicity. Even if you're not somebody who's directly perpetrating sexual violence, it is likely that you have been complicit in it, in that system. Like it's just a reality, and that's not a condemnation or like a punishing thing, but it's a, we need to be aware of this, because as soon as we name it, then we can take the steps to address it. If we keep this culture of silence, if we keep insisting that, oh, there's just a couple bad apples and they're the ones we need to weed out, we're really not going to interrogate the system where we know that sexual violence is prolific, right? So the other piece I wanted to talk about, and then Jeff, I'll hand it off to you to share your kind of perspectives, because it was so great to hear that you saw on Threads so many positive experiences and sharing of stories. But I saw, and it might just be the app, like I was on X, which was Twitter, and I really missed when it was Twitter, but on X, and in TikTok comments, there's unbelievable prevalence of rape myth acceptance of misogyny and people feeling
yes,
emboldened by this case
yes,
to be violent on the internet. Like,
yes.
so I'll pass it to you there, but I'm sure anybody in this live like knows and has seen a comment that made you want to put your phone down because it was so horrible.
Well, and that's the next topic. But just to touch on really briefly, what also struck me, again, not surprising, but just like the kind of void from the silence from male athletes, from sports communities. And I understand there might be, I don't know, reputational, legal, I don't know what goes in, you know, in organizations, like their thought processes of what they say or don't comment on. But as individuals, retired players, like
Hmm.
coaches and staff, just this chorus, this choir of silence,
Yeah.
like nothing. It's unbelievable, and it's like so. Uh, this one, Maddie. I used to be so good at multitasking with technology. Now I'm just forget it. Like I have a laptop here with some tweets that I've kind of, and I'm struggling to kind of go from. I don't have a ton of notes, but a few
Yeah.
notes taped up on the wall. I've got my laptop of tweets. One tweet um, from Noelle on Threads, Noelle Narwhal. She posted, despite what happened today, every young woman who was ever a teen or a young woman who has spent any time around packs of hockey bros knows that she was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Like, at the very least, the thing, and I've used this quote so many times in my work, but, years ago, a sexual assault counselor once said to me, when I hear bereaved survivors, I think the underlying message is that there's something here to look at. Because if you want this impossible, like, standard of beyond reasonable doubt, okay, let's put that aside for a second, right? At the very least, there's something here we need to look at with the behavior of these five guys, the 10 men in the room, the 18 that were texted, and moreover, hockey culture and
Yeah.
spaces where there are not just hockey players but male athletes. Like I've heard stories of like people running a train in minor league baseball, football. There's stories of rape and sexual assault. It's just endless.
Yeah.
Like and so to get into this piece of the other side of the coin with the online reaction, I felt like public discourse online was survivors and supporters against the D League of bench players from the Manosphere, right?
Well
Like
put.
the D League bench players of the Manosphere jumping online and like just tweeting, trolling, and just vicious, like
Yeah.
not just like trying to defend the five guys, but in survivors' threads or tweets or posts, we're jumping on them and wishing them harm,
Yeah.
further harm, and they're disclosing that they're survivors. And so yeah, I have a lot of thoughts around this, and you do too. But it's incredible, like how much things have deteriorated